Hello everyone, and welcome to my Tome Infinity and Beyond Round 2 wrap-up. For this readathon, I read 8 books. First, I read both books in the Dinosaur Planet series by Ann McCaffrey. The first book, Dinosaur Planet, I didn't so much as read as struggle through. I did finish it, but it was not an enjoyable read. This book was really unnecessary. It repeats, I think word for word, a lot of the scenes and actions that happen in the Planet Pirate series by the same author. There was pretty much no action, no character growth. I didn't know where it was going, and that's really disappointing given that the book is literally dinosaurs in space. It takes a special case to make that boring. I started the second book in the series, Dinosaur Planet Survivors, but it was so much of the same thing that I just couldn't get through it and I DNF'd it. I gave both books 1 star. Next, I read Victor LaValle's Destroyer. This is a graphic novel retelling of Frankenstein. I really appreciated the social commentary that was presented in this graphic novel. The themes and messages that the author clearly wanted to get through were done really well. As far as the characters and plot go, I would have liked a little bit more. Some things seemed to feel rushed over, and the character of the original Frankenstein type monster wasn't nearly as nuanced as I kept expecting it to be throughout the graphic novel. I really enjoyed the main character of Josephine though, and her brilliant scientific mind and what she stood for. I gave it 3 stars. Next, I read Mechanica by Betsy Cornwell. This is a steampunk / fairy retelling of Cinderella. The writing in this book and the general tone are truly magical. Really everything that you could want from a fairy tale retelling. The story isn't that complex, but what it does really well. It explores friendship and love, both platonic and romantic, and being true to your own dreams. I loved the fairy magic aspect and what it added to the story, and just really enjoyed the writing of this book. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read another graphic novel, Descender Volume 1 by Jeff Lemire. As is usual with multi-volume graphic novels, there was a lot of setup, both character-wise and world-wise, but I'm definitely intrigued. The pacing of introducing all of the new characters or ideas within the story was done really well. I also like the watercolor art style. I'm looking forward to continuing the series. Basically the story takes place in a universe where artificial intelligence robots have been banned, and one of the main characters is a robot who is being sought because there are clues in his programming that might help with a threat that has been facing this entire universe. I gave it 4 stars. Next, I read Saga Volume 9. I've seen that many people have already read this, and the emotional impact that it has had on people, as most of this entire series has had. I went in basically bracing myself, so I didn't have quite as strong a reaction to the events as many other people did, but come on, the previous 8 novels didn't give anyone any emotional break, so I really didn't expect this one to either, especially since the series is going on a 1-year hiatus. Overall, as usual, this series is great. I like what it's doing. The one criticism I have is the character of the Will. I think over the last few volumes, he hasn't had any growth. He hasn't had any dimension. He's basically just being bounced around as a tool for the other characters, and I'm not quite sure what his purpose is anymore. Yes, I know specific things that happened in this graphic novel that I won't say because of spoilers, but just overall, the treatment of his character seems to have flatlined. I'm really interested to see what happens from the fallout of the events in this graphic novel once it is not on hiatus anymore. I gave this volume 4 stars. Next, I read Provenance by Ann Leckie. This takes place in the same universe as her Imperial Roch series, shortly after the events of the 3rd book of the Imperial Roch series, but with completely different characters and in a completely different location from the other trilogy. It definitely has a different feel from the Imperial Roch series. I think it would actually be a really good place to start with Ann Leckie if you felt intimidated by her brand of sci-fi, and I really enjoyed it. It's basically about a young woman who is trying to prove herself in her politically minded family and basically gets herself into a lot of shenanigans. I really liked the way that the main character develops her friendships and relationships over the course of the book, with kind of the four main characters by the end being a little subgroup getting into shenanigans together. I would really like to follow them in future books if Leckie were to write them. They were a lot of fun, and there were good dynamics between all four of them. One of the best things I can say about Leckie's writing is that she develops such complex sci-fi worlds that even though there are humans in them, they do feel alien. I think she does a fantastic job of not making the reader feel like they're completely lost, but also making her writing feel like this is an alien world and you are reading about it. So there are things and dynamics that are very strange. She straddles that line and executes that dynamic superbly. So I always felt a little bit off kilter reading about the characters and the political situations in this world, but never enough that I felt lost. I really appreciated that, and now I kind of want to reread the Imperial Roch series again. I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 4 stars. Lastly, I read Adaptation by Malinda Lo. I had previously read Lo's Cinderella retelling Ash and its prequel Huntress, and really enjoyed them, so I was eager to see what she did with Sci-Fi. This is a young adult novel that follows 2 teenagers who end up getting into a car crash, and they are taken care of by basically Area 51. They think that they have just been healed medically and they can go home, but it turns out when they were in this hospital, there might have been experiments done on them, and the story follows the effects of those experiments. This book was action-packed. I finished it in just 2 nights because I really did not want to put it down. There were definitely moments that felt weak to me that I just kind of had to give the benefit of the doubt as far as moving the plot along, but overall the characters were pretty complex in how they dealt with the situation. I liked the development of their relationships with each other, and the tension throughout this book was so good. It reminded me a lot of Jessica Corey's Corpus series, the 3 books being Origin, Vitro, and Kalahari. Those books, especially the first and the third one, are ones I did not want to put down because it had that consistent movement forward in the pacing. Also with Adaptation, I want to point out that it's a YA book with a prominent mother presence for the main character, a positive mother presence. I really appreciated seeing that because in YA, at least in the books that I read, that doesn't happen very often. I really enjoyed this book. I'm looking forward to reading the sequel, and I gave it 4 stars. So those are the 8 books that I read for Tome Infinity and Beyond Round 2, and in total, they filled all of the challenges for the Readathon, which I kept track of on this spreadsheet, which was created by Steph Galvin on Twitter. Between all 8 of the books, I had filled all of the challenges except for apocalyptic/dystopian in the genre section. I suppose there are elements of adaptation that could fill that genre, but since Descender was one of the wildcard options for the challenges, I decided to just use that to fill the challenge of apocalyptic/dystopian. So I was able to build up my settlement on Saturn to Tier 5, the Galactic Empire. This was a really fun readathon, just like Round 1, and I can't wait to see if there's a Round 3 and what that would entail. Let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, or if you participated in Tome Infinity and Beyond Round 2, and how your settlement fared. Thanks for joining me.